me guess, you probably think you have a time management problem and you need to solve it with better discipline and a more productive routine. The thing is, the problem usually isn't time. When you procrastinate, you're not actually avoiding effort, you're avoiding a feeling. And in today's world, we all have the easiest emotional escape tool ever created sitting in our pockets. Or maybe you're literally using it right now to watch this video on. So today, I want to share a few ideas that completely change the way I manage my time and help me get all of the things that are important for me done. If you're new here, I'm Veronika, a polyglot yoga teacher and plant-based nutrition advocate. And on this channel, we talk about the habits and mindset changes to help us live with more intention. So today, we'll be talking about what actually causes procrastination, how you're losing hours every week in tiny time leaks, why time blocking only works if you understand this one important thing, and how you absolutely need rest and moments of doing nothing if you want to manage your time effectively. I made a free worksheet where you can identify the most common time leaks in your life and create simple systems to fix them. If you want to download it, you can grab it through the link in the description. Alright, so let's begin with the first idea that really changed the way I look at taking control of my time. Time management is actually emotion management. One of the most amazing discoveries in psychology that I really want you guys to understand is that procrastination is not laziness. And our phones are not the cause of procrastination. Let me explain. I'm currently reading a book by Adam Grant called Hidden Potential: The Science of Achieving Great Things. And there, the author mentions that many people associate procrastination with laziness, but psychologists find that procrastination is not a time management problem. It's an emotion management problem. When you procrastinate, you're not avoiding effort, you're avoiding the unpleasant feelings that the activity stirs up. Sooner or later, though, you realize that you're also avoiding getting where you want to go. And that is a big problem. I also found this amazing podcast episode on the American Psychological Association website, where I learned that yes, procrastination happens when we try to avoid uncomfortable emotions, not the task itself.
As you mentioned, emotions are at the core of procrastination. And this comes from a lot of the research that suggests that the type of tasks that we procrastinate on are ones that we don't enjoy. They're ones that we find unpleasant, aversive, and that can range the full spectrum from just simply boring to gut-wrenching, nerve-wracking and, anxiety-provoking. So anywhere along that spectrum of a task that makes us feel that and these negative emotions in one form or another, those are the tasks that we're more likely to procrastinate on.
And the problem in all of that is that phones offer the fastest and easiest emotional escape ever created, because they provide instant novelty, dopamine rewards, infinite content, and zero effort. Phones are not the cause of procrastination. They are a perfect tool for the emotional escape that your brain was already looking for. And if your parents tell you that you procrastinate way more than they did when they were younger, that is probably true. But historically, procrastination always existed. But before social media, escaping emotions required a lot of effort. You had to leave your house, you had to visit your neighbors, you had to do chores. But now, the escape tool is always in your pocket, available 24/7, designed to keep you hooked. And the cost of all of that when it comes to time management and productivity is that you're postponing the life that you actually want. You choose immediate comfort over your long-term goals. Almost everything meaningful in life requires some form of friction. Every single Sunday at 9 a.m. I have a yoga class. And do you think that every single Sunday I wake up at around 8 a.m. and I feel so extremely inspired and motivated to go and do yoga right now? Absolutely not. Usually I feel tired, sleepy, it's Sunday, and I would much rather stay in bed. And that feeling that I experience, that resistance, is a form of friction. But friction doesn't mean that something is wrong. It simply means that you're doing something that requires effort, growth, and some form of discipline. I didn't learn to do a handstand by avoiding friction. I didn't learn to speak English, Spanish by making my studying effortless progress all the time. Every skill, every goal, every meaningful thing in life comes with some form of friction. And the problem today is the moment we feel that friction, we have an immediate escape. Which is why time management isn't just about your planners or your schedules. Real time management starts with learning how to sit with a little bit of friction and regulate the emotions that come with it. Because if we don't learn how to do that, the easiest escape will always win. If you guys want me to make a dedicated video about nervous system regulation and emotional management, please let me know in the comments. I think the important thing here is making sure that you use your phone in a more intentional way to help you grow instead of just mindlessly scroll. That's where today's sponsor comes in, LingQ. As someone who learned multiple languages and built an entire YouTube channel about language learning, I've tried a lot of tools, and LingQ is one of the few apps that focuses on how languages are actually acquired in real life. LingQ is a language learning app that's built around something called comprehensible input, which means learning languages by reading and listening to content that you actually love and mostly understand. I can import ebooks, articles, and videos from YouTube and learn languages this way. I found this video in Spanish, and once I import it, LingQ turns it into something I can actually learn from. LingQ gives me the ability to look up words and phrases while watching YouTube videos in landscape mode on my phone. This is really helpful because I can stay in the flow of the content without having to stop, switch apps, or lose my place. Instead of breaking my immersion every time I hit an unfamiliar word, I can get a quick definition right there on screen and keep watching. Which means I'm spending more time actually engaging with the language and less time fumbling between tabs or dictionaries. Over time, that adds up to a lot more input, and more input means faster progress. I've been using LingQ for years to learn different languages, so I highly recommend giving it a try. You can do so by using the link in my description. Thank you so much to LingQ for sponsoring today's video. Alright, so the second time management principle that has been extremely helpful right now is understanding that most time management problems come from tiny time leaks. Most of you guys probably think that you lose time in big and obvious ways, like when you spend 2 hours scrolling on your phone instead of doing something productive. And yes, you obviously waste time when you do that, let's be real. But also, most time management problems come from something much smaller. Tiny time leaks. These are small moments of friction or decision making that individually seem like they don't really mean anything, but collectively they add up and they drain a lot of your energy. And time management is closely tied with energy management. We'll talk about that a bit later. A time leak is essentially a small interruption that breaks your focus and forces your brain to make unnecessary decisions, like searching for everyday items, like when you look for your keys, your headphones, your chargers, your documents. All of that can waste chunks of time multiple times a day, and also obviously a lot of your energy, because usually when this happens we get pretty frustrated. So the fix for that is having a home base for frequently used items so that everything is always in one place, and when you use an item you always put it back. Another great example that wastes so much of my time is deciding what to eat when I'm already hungry. When you wait until that moment, you're usually super angry and frustrated, and so even small meal decisions start to feel significant. So the fix for that is plan meals in advance or keep a few default meals that you can quickly make. The reason why I really want you to work on reducing those time leaks is because they create this constant start and stop pattern in your attention. Every time your brain stops and switches context, it needs extra energy to get back into the task again, because our brain can't fully multitask. And if your day is filled with those time leaks, so you're constantly switching contexts, that is so time consuming and so stressful. Now let's talk about the third principle. Time blocking only works if you manage your energy. I think everyone needs to recognize that everyone's time is already occupied by so many different responsibilities. that also drain our energy. And those responsibilities, they look very different depending on the season of life you're in right now. This is something that I talk about a lot because it is so easy to compare your life with someone you see online, a friend or even a family member, and think that you have less time than them without realizing that you guys are just in different seasons of your lives. Someone might be single, living alone, and working for themselves. Someone else might be married with kids and managing an entire household. Another person might have a traditional 9 to 5 with a long commute every single day. And those realities, they already take up large portions of our days, and they shape what we can do with the rest of our time. The goal of time management isn't to compare yourself with someone who seems to have endless freedom and a completely different lifestyle. Instead, the goal is to recognize the season of life you're in right now and work within that reality instead of constantly fighting it because you're comparing your season of life with someone else's lifestyle. Let's look at my college calendar, for example, and compare it with my energy calendar and my current work calendar. When I was in college, I had to commute 2 hours every single day, an hour to my college and an hour back. So when I time block like that, I can see that, okay, this is my current reality. I really wanted to go to college. I really wanted to learn Chinese because I was learning Chinese in college. If I look at my energy calendar, for example, usually when I wake up, I have medium energy, and then from around 10 to 6, it's the moment of high energy, and then from 6 to 10, it's extremely low energy because I like to go to bed early. As you can see with time blocking, what I really like is that I just know that, okay, this time I usually dedicate to work, or this time is when I do yoga. But at the same time, if I look at my calendar realistically, I can see that if I want to dedicate time to learning, listening to something, I can maybe do it in the morning or maybe do it during my dinner and relaxation time, but maybe not, because sometimes it's also good to relax and just focus on your morning routine or focus on making dinner, for example. And that is how we move to the next time management principle. Your brain needs empty space. I used to be that person who would time block, and then I would fill every single moment, every single empty little block with something extremely productive because I felt like I needed to make the most out of every single hour, every single day. And that usually happens with things that don't require a lot of cognitive processing, like podcasts during walks, audiobooks while driving, videos while cooking, music while working, social media when we're waiting in line. We try to be productive every single second, so we fill that every single second with audiobooks and podcasts. But let me tell you something, our brains were never designed to operate in a state of continuous stimulation. If you never allow yourself to get bored, if your brain never gets a moment of quiet, there's a very high chance that your mind will start feeling cluttered. All of those thoughts usually show up later, right before you're about to go to bed. Many people notice that when they spend an entire day consuming information, their minds suddenly become extremely busy when they lay down to sleep. Alternatively, when your mind is at rest, when you're daydreaming, when you're walking somewhere without headphones, without listening to music, a network in the brain called the default mode network becomes active. And during that time, your brain isn't idle, it's doing a lot of important work. The default mode network helps you process emotions, consolidate memories, reflect on experiences, imagine the future, and connect ideas in creative ways. The classic example are shower thoughts, when your best ideas and best insights happen when you're not actively trying to think about something. Those moments happen because your brain finally gets the space to connect information that was already stored in your mind. And when you're constantly listening to something, a podcast or an audiobook all the time because you're trying to squeeze in this productive time, you never give your brain the time that it needs to process that information. And obviously right now, I'm not trying to say that audiobooks and podcasts and educational content are all bad. Absolutely not. The problem appears when we treat every moment as something to be filled. A better approach is something that I always talk about on my YouTube channel, which is creating those micro moments of boredom in your everyday life. Walking without headphones, driving in silence, doing household tasks without background content, or simply sitting quietly for a few minutes. Those moments may feel uncomfortable at the very beginning because we're all used to constant stimulation, but that is completely normal. If it feels new, uncomfortable, a little bit weird, that's a sign that we need to start doing those things more often. We need to start creating those moments of boredom for ourselves more and more. Alright, and the final principle that I want to talk to you guys today is stop rushing to get more things done. When we try to do as many things in a day as possible, another consequence of that is that we are rushing through absolutely everything. And so our nervous system becomes accustomed to operating in a state of constant urgency. And obviously the problem appears when nothing urgent is actually happening, when there's no deadline, you're not late. Usually it shows up in like simple daily activities. You're just washing the dishes, but all of a sudden you feel like you have to do it extremely fast. Over time, everything we're doing starts to feel slightly rushed and reactive, and our bodies stay in this mild stress response throughout the day. So a good thing here is to start noticing when those things actually happen and bring awareness to your pace. When I started doing that, I noticed so many different daily situations in which I was rushing without any intention behind it. Alright everyone, I think it's going to be it for today's video. If you liked it, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really hope that right now you know how to manage your time and how to reclaim your time in a world that is unfortunately built to distract you. Just a reminder, if you're learning foreign languages, I highly recommend to check out LingQ. All the information and all the links are going to be in the description. If you want to continue watching something, click here. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in my next video.